I whimper with distress as I drag myself along the tightness of the tunnel. With every one of my movements, I can feel the cold and clammy stone all around, sapping the warmth from my body. The sides of the passage squeeze in a little tighter, and every one of my senses is screaming at me in panic. I can't breathe in here. There's not enough air. There is enough air, Angela. You can do it. Keep going. Keep going. I think about the terror in the darkness, the abomination that slithered up out of the water. Could it follow us down here? No, surely not. It's too big. But then, I didn't think it would be able to follow us through the crack in the rock that Margaret led us through either. So I don't know. I just don't know. I let out a shout of fright as something knocks into one of my feet, before I remember that Darcy is right behind me in the tunnel. Stay calm. Stay calm. My torch has gone dark again. Darcy has hers switched on, but the tunnel is so tight that next to none of the light makes it past my face to illuminate the way ahead. I smack my device with the back of my hand a couple of times and it sputters back to life. The tunnel goes on. Breathe, Angela, breathe. Do you think Margaret's right? I call back to Darcy. Do you think all the tunnels link back up? What? She calls back. It's too muffled. She can't hear me. My torch cuts out again, and the way ahead is lost once more in a shadow as I crawl. I grunt with frustration. I said, do you think Margaret is... My voice catches in my throat as mid-crawl my form lands on nothing but air, and I take in a sharp breath as I lurch suddenly forward. My torch slips from my hand and bounces away, down into the dark. Every time it smacks against the rock, the light flickers on, then off. On, then off, granting me fleeting glimpses of the sudden steepness of the tunnel, sloping down into shadows. Darcy, I don't know if I can do this, I shout out loud. Angela! I don't want you to panic, but I can hear the thing moving about in the water, back in the cave. I suppress the fear. I can't let it out here. Not now, not in this place. So down I go. I try to keep a steady crawl, but soon I lose any hope of grip on the slippery stone. Not even by wedging my limbs against the sides can I do much to slow my descent, and I find myself tumbling down through the darkness, eyes wide and adrenaline racing. I can just about see the faintest of glows from my torch, from wherever it is that it landed, and it allows me to see the faintest of highlights of rock as it rushes right by. Something scrapes against my jeans and cuts my leg. I cry out. I try not to think about what might happen if I end up getting stuck in here, unable to move, trapped in a place, upside down, alone in the dark. Stuck upside down in a tunnel as tight as this, half submerged in icy water, might well be one of the worst possible ways to die. It's a mercy that I do not fall and slip for particularly long, so I'm not given much time to dwell on this grisly fate. The light of my torch becomes clear, and the tunnel ends. It opens up into another little cave, and as the walls disappear behind me, my hand smacks into the torch, knocking it from its precarious perch, and down it tumbles with me, into the water below. I shriek as I hit the surface with a great splash. The bubbles rising past my ears as my surroundings are lost to a world of dark water. But there is, at the least, space. I can kick and move my limbs about freely, and I do so, pushing my way quickly back to the surface with my torch in hand. I gasp in the air of the cave and swim over to the side, clambering out onto the rocky little ledge. Ugh. I shake my arms and wring the moisture from the ends of my sleeves, holding back sobs of relief as I start to process the terror of my little journey. My torch barely works now. It flickers and sputters weakly, and then it cuts out altogether. I cannot bring it back to life this time. The device is dead. And yet I can still see a little of my surroundings. There is still some source of light in this cave. Shivering, I climb to my feet and look around. A faint, pale glow emanates from behind a nearby corner, and I cautiously walk around the rock to get a better look. What I see takes my breath away. No way, I murmur, the lights of the sight before me sparkling and reflecting bright in my eyes. Amongst a tumbled pile of stones and rock, directly ahead is a compact collection of clustered quartz and crystals, shining in shades of blue and red that are nothing like I've ever seen. This is them, I realize. The gem of the cavern's namesake. The Mabam Karaj. They are real. I take an odd step closer. Gaza was right, surely. There's no way that even one of those things isn't worth a small fortune. You could take one, Angela. You could take one right now. Press it from the rock and stuff it into your pocket. I reach out a hand. I hear a splash and a cry of alarm. Darcy! I swivel at once and return to the cave, to the edge of the pool. Darcy! I call to her. Over here! It's okay! The girl splashes about in the water. Then, without warning, throws me her torch before it can become too waterlogged. To my amazement, I actually catch it, following the device a little as I do so. Darcy swims over to me and I help haul her up onto the rocky bank. This is insane, she sputters, spitting out water onto the ground. Wait till you see what I've just found, I tell her, and after helping her to her feet, I show her around the corner, and together we are caught in the spell of the Madame Kadarj. Whoa, is all she can say at first. Yeah, I reply, not taking my eyes from the gems. I know what you're thinking, Angela, she says to me eventually, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't thinking it too. But I reckon we should leave them be, just as they are. I turn to her. Are you serious? I ask, but I can hear the seriousness in her voice to tell the truth. Yeah, she says. They're pretty, but honestly they give me the creeps. Don't you feel it? I really don't think we should take any. It feels wrong. I look back at the cluster of quartz. Now that she's mentioned it, I'm starting to feel it a little too. The unsettling vibe that the crystals give off. And besides, what would I do if I took one? How would I sell it? Would it be classed as stealing? I'm not sure, but Darcy has turned and begun to make her way a little deeper into the cavern. She looks back at me. Angela, are you ready? I pause. The crystals glitter with temptation, but I leave them behind. They're beautiful, but we roughly know where they are now. We can tell someone about it when we get out. If we get out. I shudder and tear my eyes away from the soft glow of the red and blue, and fall in step beside Darcy. We follow the light of the torch away into the rocky corridor. We are limited in choice of passage. The route we now take was the only one that was even visible to us, but we follow it dutifully, around through the dark. Every shadow or unusual outcrop of rock sending chills right through us as we anticipate the return of the terrible beast from the water. I wonder if it was swimming about beneath us when we fell from the tunnel. The thought is a disturbing one, and I push it aside with all the rest. Darcy stops and puts a hand out, and I freeze, tensed. I can hear something. We listen carefully and hear it again. It's a voice. It sounds like one of the boys. We look at each other and hasten on a little faster, and the voices become clearer. It's Jamie and Gaza alright, calling our names. We start shouting back, and our route eventually splits up into multiple passages. We follow the sound of their calls down the passage we think they're coming from, and after a few minutes we find them, bone dry and surprised to see us soaked. Hey! Jamie calls to us, stepping closer and pulling me into a hug. Oh, he says, stepping back. You're all wet. What the hell happened to you guys? Our tunnel didn't come out at the best location, says Darcy as she nods at Gaza. What about you guys? Have you seen Margaret? The guys share a look. No, Jamie says eventually. We haven't found her. And we tried, believe me. Look, let's show you where we came out. They lead us back into the cavern. I glance at Darcy, not failing to appreciate that she hasn't mentioned the Madame Kadarj. I'm not sure why, but my gut instinct tells me to do likewise, and I keep quiet. The cavern the boys came out of is much wider than ours was, and the walls are lined with lots of tunnels, instead of just one. Jamie points. That's where we came out. There's another room next to this one with a few more holes, but they're the only ones we could find. Margaret must have come out of one of them, we're sure of it. We wandered about a bit, but we haven't seen any sign of her yet. Fuck her, I say, says Gaza with a sniff. Old bat nearly got us killed. He's not wrong, but his words stir a general sense of unease among the group. We should at least try to look for her, says Darcy to a murmur of reluctant agreement. Gaza shrugs. Fine, but try to remember that we're not alone down here. Have either of you two tried your radios recently? We haven't, so we do so now as the boys start calling for Margaret through the tunnels. As always, however, the radios only give us silence, broken by the occasional crackling, watery static. Our hunt for Margaret lasts for all about 5 minutes. We try, honestly. We really do try, but she's nowhere to be seen. I don't get it. Why didn't she come out of any of these tunnels? Asks Jamie. Maybe she did, says Darcy quietly. Maybe she was the first one out and made a run for it. Would she? I ask, but in my heart of hearts, I feel like I know the answer is yes. Our search is cut short by the sound of an echoing and all too familiar hiss. To my horror, however, it doesn't sound like it's coming from any of the tunnels. We all turn to look back through the maze-like passage of stone, listening to the sound of the creature's terrible approach, waiting for its shadow to spill into our field of vision at any moment. "Fuck this, I'm out of here," says Gaza, and he takes off down the opposite corridor into the dark. "Come on," he shouts, and we join him with a total of 2 working torches between us. Through the darkness we race, our footsteps loud against the cold stone, Darcy and I still dripping, even now as we run. And the monster follows. We push into an enormous cavern, not quite the largest so far, but not far off. Great pillars of shimmering rock rise up all around, and for the first real time in our expedition, we find ourselves with the option to climb higher, instead of being forced lower. At the cavern's edge is a rough outcrop of stone that ascends up and up, like a rough imitation of a staircase, one so crude as to be barely recognizable as such. But it makes no matter. It leads up, and if we're careful, we can climb it. No guardrails, though, this time. Gaza is the first one to try it. I wince, half expecting the rock to break away beneath his feet. But up he climbs, gripping the wall for balance as the outcrop isn't particularly wide. 1 meter, 2 meters, 3... "Guys," he shouts, "get a fucking move on already!" "Go," says Jamie, and gestures Darcy and I up after Gaza. We warily start to climb. The ground begins to drop away behind as we shuffle higher and higher. We rise up with the towers of rock. But the creature is coming. I can't say how, but I can feel it. We all can. It's more than just that growing hissing. It's an almost physical weight, growing heavier and heavier as it draws near. Just as we're approaching the top of the climb, near a wider and more substantial platform of stone, I hear it. Not the monster, but something else. I hear a voice? The voice of a girl. "Please," she murmurs weakly, and I stop at once. Darcy bumps into me. "Hey," she says, but I shush her and we listen. The voice comes again, a little louder. "Hey, please!" I turn to look over the expanse of rock and stone, and there on the opposite side of the cavern, on a ledge not dissimilar to our own, is the girl. Macy, the missing wanderer, alive down here in the depths of the cave.